one question that I've had for a while is, how do you tell the difference between intuition and overthinking?
Okay, that's a good one. Telling the difference between intuition and overthinking. Now, when you say overthinking, you mean, are you relating that to anxiety? Are you relating that to worry or doubts? Because usually when people say overthinking, they overthink about things in a way that is not necessarily always the best or the nicest. I mean, some people like overthink in a sense of trying to plan ahead and have basically a plan for everything in case something happens. So that's a
Yeah,
form of overthinking too. So what do you mean exactly when you say overthinking?
exactly that. Where there's a space where I feel as though, I need to have plans. Um, and so I plan a lot, um,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps excessively at
Okay.
times, just because I like to be prepared for any opportunity or any possibility. But then I feel like there are times when maybe I'm planning too much, or where maybe I become obsessive about planning to the point where um, I'm not as, I don't want to say that I'm not as able to adapt, because I don't think
Mm-hmm.
that's true, or accurate, but maybe to a degree
Mm-hmm.
where I'm not as able to navigate a situation in a flow state
Okay.
because of how much I've planned. And so I'm not really sure where that line is. It seems like I got to toe a line where, I have to plan, right? That's just a part of who I am. But
Mm-hmm.
then how do I know when I've planned too much?
So that's an interesting question because as far as the intuitive understanding and overthinking,
Mm,
how I see that, you know, maybe you think that you're overthinking,
mm,
but really your intuition feels how many timelines of energy you're connected to. And so it's trying to give you something for all of those timelines that you're connected to. That's how I see it, or that's how I understand it. So maybe it's the understanding of. So, first, I have to say this. In
mm,
your life, if you look around you in your room now,
mm,
everything around you is a timeline. Everything. The seat that you're sitting in is a timeline. The door behind you is a timeline. The room behind you is a timeline. The mirror is a timeline. The light that you have on, it's a timeline. Everything is a timeline understanding. And your soul self feels all these timelines that are here. Now, expand that out into your life. Expand that to how many people you connect to. Expand that to all of your responsibilities. All of those things are timelines. And some of those timelines you may not have to show up in, but you would like to show up in, or you feel a responsibility to show up in, or
mm.
you just choose to show up in them for whatever reason. And so that overthinking is really yourself trying to give you, just kind of help you understand all of these timelines in a sense. So maybe the overthinking is really, can I release or remove some of these timeline understandings? What can I do to, guard my energy enough that it doesn't have to overexert itself or expand in such a heavy way? Maybe you're not overthinking as much as you think you are in that sense. If you would have said that, if you would have said overthinking in a way of like doubting, that's a different
Yeah.
question. But when you're relating it to all the planning and plan from A to Z, it could be that you have connected yourself to so many different timelines that yourself is trying to basically over overcompensate for that, and that's a lot. You stretch yourself in so many different directions that way. And so I really do think that it could be in relation to that. There's so many things, and I can relate that back to my own environment, because in the journey, or where I am in my ascension now, I had to release and remove a lot of timelines. Spirit made me get rid of a lot of stuff, a lot of people, disconnect. And it's not necessarily about, these people haven't done anything wrong to me. It's just that they were timelines that would have kind of like moved me off the track, or made me take a detour to where spirit wanted me to go.
Mm,
And so in that sense, I think that maybe it could be you have a lot of timelines that you're connected to in some sense. And
mm,
so your intuitive self, it's not separate, it's the same thing. Your intuition is trying to get you to trying to make sure you have a plan, or give you a little insight to each timeline. Because if you think about just one thing, like the door, it looks like it's a closet behind you. What happens? Just think in some sense. What's the timeline understanding of opening that door? What things are in there? What could you do from opening that door? Where could you go after opening that door and picking up something inside that closet? Do you get what I'm saying? All of those are timelines. I hope that makes sense. But it's just that a lot of times I think that people can get overextended in that sense of planning because they are connected to so many things. And that's what it really is. It's not that you're overthinking. It's that yourself is trying to be prepared for all of the timelines that you have yourself open to. Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like that makes sense. That makes sense. Being connected to so many different timelines. So it sounds like, though, that just like in your experience where you had to, separate yourself from certain people, not necessarily because of the bad or did anything bad to you, but just because that steered you away, or they would have steered you away from the path that you're supposed to be on. So it sounds like for me, what I would need to do is to acknowledge all of the different timelines that I'm on, but just assure that the timelines that I focus on the most are aligned with the path that I feel like I'm supposed to be on.
Essentially that, looking at it from an analytical standpoint, and taking, even in some sense, possibly taking out the emotional aspect. Some of the connections that I let go of when it came to people, I felt emotionally invested, but I was trying to do what was, to be honest, I put my connection with my creator above anything else. And that was not always easy. I can't say it didn't make me sad in any way or it wasn't hard, but I looked at it from, somebody told me that we couldn't be, you can't be objective because humans are emotional creatures. You can be, objective. You can just do or take actions from a completely analytical place. But a lot of people see that as cold or, in some way calculating or inhuman. But in some sense, when you're trying to disconnect yourself from certain timelines, it will look that way, or it may feel that way to certain people. But overall, this is about shifting your life to the better, most highest timeline, or the highest understanding that you want to move towards yourself. And there will be energies that will understand that, and there will be energies that won't, but it's about learning to accept that you may end up being a villain in some people's story because of that. And that's okay. Maybe some point they'll grow and they'll begin to go on their own version of that, and they'll see where you came from. Maybe not always in that moment, but yeah. Hey, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have a question you would like to ask or would like the opportunity to receive a one-on-one session, please check out the links in this video's description to sign up for a free session or submit a question.